All right, Flint, thanks for joining me. How are you doing?
I'm doing great.
Good. Okay, we're talking in this module about neurodiversities, and I'm really looking forward to hearing your take on it as you're preparing to be a therapist someday. And before that, you'll be a coach for teens, tweens, parents. I'm curious, as a person with ADHD yourself, what would be a couple things you'd like people to know about ADHD or understand about it?
Yeah, I mean, that it's hard. It is a challenge. I think that a lot of people, starting about when my generation was coming into fifth or sixth grade, maybe, there was a big movement, both by people in my generation and other generations, that like ADHD is a superpower. ADHD is like the autism is my superpower thing, right? But it was with ADHD too, and it was, this is a good thing. This means you have a lot of energy. This means you're creative, all that stuff, which those things are true, but ADHD is really hard to deal with, especially in formal settings that aren't set up for people with ADHD, like academia or certain workplaces. And it is a struggle. And I think that one thing I would like people to understand more about ADHD is that it is hard. It's a limitation, and it's something that a lot of people, have to struggle with frequently, myself included.
I appreciate that point of view because I do remember that when you were a kid. And for those of you who don't know, Flint is my oldest child. Flint's 20. He's the oldest of four kids in the Parisi family. And when you were diagnosed, do you remember what age you were diagnosed with ADHD?
Probably 9 or 10.
Yeah, third grade. It was third grade, so whatever age that puts it. You're right. There was this let's look at all the bright side of
Mhm.
ADHD. And there are great things, and we're going to talk about that later. There are some positives. But I remember thinking as a parent, I also see why they call it a disability in
Mhm.
attention deficit hyperactivity
Disorder.
disorder, right?
Mhm.
I'm
It
like, I
is.
can see why they say that because it is challenging. It is challenging for you. So there's both some pros and cons. And so for people to understand that, and some situations, like you said, aren't set up to make it really more successful for people with
Mhm.
ADHD. Anything else that comes to your mind? I like that one.
For what I wish people knew about ADHD.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. For a lot of things, there aren't clear workarounds for people with ADHD. There isn't a way to get around it, you know. I'm in college, right? And they have a disability services center that offers stuff for people with ADHD. You can take more time on tests. You're allowed to record notes instead of needing to write them, right? Things like that. But those things only go so far, and ultimately you still need to focus on studying. You still need to focus on your textbook. You still need to do all these other things that ADHD makes difficult, right? So it is the biggest thing that I would like people to take away is that it is harder than you've been told it is, and it has disorder in its name for a reason.
Yeah. Well, and it makes me think about like the patience and understanding that needs to come with it because you're working maybe extra hard to stay organized or to get a certain project done. You're working harder than people might know. And then I was also thinking about the term, if this applies here, but like invisible disability,
Mhm.
or disorder. It's kind of an invisible thing where someone has a physical need or challenge. You notice it. So like, oh, hey, let me help you get the door if you're, using a walking assistant or a wheelchair or something, you see that. But people might not notice or know offhand that you have ADHD. Although maybe they do. They see you moving, rocking.
It's more obvious in some than others, but
Yes. Yeah. Yeah. Great. Okay. So tell me how ADHD has shown up in your life as a strength. Let's start with that. How has it been
as
a
a
strength?
strength. I know I just made a big deal about how like, oh, it is a disorder, not a superpower, right? But it does have strengths, right? There are things that come well with it. People with ADHD are very creative, and I've found myself to be very creative in a lot of settings in life, both in writing. When I was a kid, I was a very imaginative kid. I'm still pretty imaginative in different ways. In artistic expressions, other forms like that. And the extra energy that you have from ADHD is a real thing, so much that it's an inconvenience a lot of the time. And so having a lot of creativity and a lot of energy to use that creativity is a good thing. a
Yeah,
lot of the time. It can also hold you back, but it has its moments where that's really nice and helps you stand out from the crowd, helps you do something that you really like doing.
I love that. Thank you. Okay, good. And how about in your own life, what challenges in particular do you notice or are you working on overcoming?
Pretty
Either current
similar,
or in the past, either one.
pretty similar challenges to most people with ADHD. Time management has never come easy for me as a result of ADHD. It's especially an issue now that I'm in college, right? Got to really be conscious of that. It is a thing you can get through. It's a thing you can work through. You just need to be more conscious about it than I assume other people have to be. Other than that, focusing when I don't want to focus on things, focusing when there's limited time, focusing on a long lecture, focusing on a long conversation, something like that, not getting distracted, being able to take good notes. Um, some of the sensory issues that come with ADHD have been struggles in my life back when I was a kid. Especially for me, it was loud noises. I was very, what would be the word, very vulnerable to loud noises when I was a young kid. I wore over-the-ear headphones a lot of the time, which I'm sure made me look silly, but I needed them, right? So there have been a couple elements of ADHD that come up a lot, especially if someone else is very sensitive to someone having ADHD. Like, why are you moving so much? Why are you rocking or why are you bouncing? Why are you tapping something, right? It's like, I've told you I have ADHD, right? Those things aren't uncontrollable, right? If you think about it, you can stop doing it. Like before I joined this call, I was rocking in my chair like this, not doing it now because it is something you can control, but I have to be consciously thinking about it, right? That's the biggest struggle is needing to think harder about normal day-to-day things than an average person would have to.
Yeah, thank you. That is, yeah, took me back to when you were a toddler and the sensitivity to noise. We called them quiet ears, like you said, your
Hmm.
headphones. But I remember the automatic flushing toilets at public places and the automatic hand dryers were a big problem for us
Yeah.
when you were in those toddler years because they were so loud and it was so disruptive to you. Okay, but you shared a lot of really cool things and now you're 20, you're working your way through college, you want to go to grad school, you want to work with teens, tweens, parents as a coach and then as a therapist. I think you bring a really unique lens being a person with ADHD yourself. Tell me how you think your experience could help you working with a teenager who also has ADHD.
I can relate more to teenagers with ADHD as opposed to someone who doesn't have ADHD, right? I understand the struggles, I understand the symptoms, and I know how to manage them in my own life. I can give them more than just a textbook understanding of what the disorder is. I know the ins and outs of it because I've lived with it my whole life. If I have a kid with ADHD who I'm working with in a professional setting, right, and I see that he's fidgeting a bunch or he can't concentrate, he can't focus on something, he needs to ask me to repeat myself a bunch of times, something like that. I've been there, right? And I can give him information that I know has helped me and other people with ADHD on a personal level rather than just this high above medical perspective that someone who doesn't have ADHD might have. I can get more personal, I can get more specific, and I can understand that it's ADHD maybe before even they do, right? Maybe before they've had a formal diagnosis, maybe before their parents have accepted that they have ADHD, right? And I can act accordingly from there.
I love that. And as a parent who does not have ADHD myself, I think that you have a lot to offer parents too, as they're parenting kids who are neurodiverse with ADHD in particular, but maybe autism spectrum as well. How do you think your experience can help when you're working with parents to help them understand or their mindset as they're approaching their child?
Well, once I finish my training, I'll know all the words for this stuff. I'll know all the theories behind it, right? But I'll also know the personal aspects of ADHD. I'll understand the feelings of feeling like people are telling you what to do all the time, feeling like you're always behind, feeling like you have a bad memory, or feeling like you just can't seem to keep track of your things, right? I understand that, and soon I'll understand all the words behind it, all the important medical jargon for those things. And so if I'm working with parents with an ADHD child, I can give them my own personal experiences with ADHD and my professional advice that I'm learning here in college. I can give them both.
Yeah, I think it really can increase the empathy that parents can have for their kids and also teens can maybe, understand themselves better with the empathy you can bring.
Mhm.
All right. Thank you so much for chatting with me about things.
Absolutely. Thank you.
All right. Talk to you later.